Aquaman is a film I didn't think I'd be thinking too much about after I watched it. While it by no means was a terrible movie, its directing, score and cinematography definitely saved it from the absolute trash writing. But I'm not here to shit on Aquaman today. In fact, what I'm going to do is to compare it to a film that has a much more similar structure and story than I'm sure either film would like to admit. While in the age of an overabundance of comic book adaptations where it's not hard to make them all feel the same, I think Aquaman and Black Panther are an interesting case to look at. In particular, however, is the final action scene between their respective hero and villain, which is what I want to look at in this video, and why I think Aquaman gets so much of it right where Black Panther just doesn't. Let's dive in. I want to start by talking about how similar these movies really are, and set up the context for both their respective showdowns at the end. From a practical standpoint, they are both billion-dollar films that use an incredible amount of CGI to satiate the visual fidelity of the movies. They each delve into a fictional culture, however, Black Panther having more obvious connotations to real life and using that angle as a far more crucial element to its story. Aquaman, on the other hand, just wants to talk about pollution for a bit and then forget about it immediately. From a story level, both films deal with up-and-coming kings who struggle with their identities and the future of their nations, with the respective villain being someone who believes they have a claim to the throne and want to steer their people in a new direction. Here is where Black Panther does get the credit. The movie sets us up as the issue and largely follows this story all the way till the end. While some of the decisions throughout the movie I can't say I'm super happy with, I respect it sticking to its themes and actually doing something interesting with them at the end by having Black Panther change his ideas based on the decisions of the villain. Aquaman, on the other hand, spends the majority of its second act with its main character on a side quest which I don't think really adds anything to the film other than being a fun adventure. Oh, and the middle section also has this awesome scene. Against all eyes like Pac said, I'm the living great Gatsby, but these boys are what you quick and disappear like Banksy. From ocean to ocean, sea to sea, I'm something that you gotta see. Eventually we get to a point in both the stories where we reach the final showdown, Black Panther versus Killmonger and Aquaman versus Ocean Master. The fight to determine who wins the throne and decides the fate of their people. Now, let's get to the actual point of this video. I think the essence of what both these fights should have been is summed up rather nicely by Willem Dafoe's character in Aquaman, Volko.
Volko! Come on, he needs our help!
We can't! Look, the people must bear witness.
I'm no expert, so I won't try and sound like one, but this line illustrates what is missing from Black Panther's final battle. Now, most people tend to agree that Black Panther's CGI really let it down, in particular during its third act, with the unnecessary addition of rhinos and a boring final confrontation between the hero and the villain. However, I think the ultimate downfall of this final fight is where the fight between T'Challa and Eric happens, and how they fight one another. A fair while into the big climactic battle, T'Challa saves his sister from Killmonger and the two proceed to fall in incredibly long distance down into a vibranium train track. The only logical reason for this is to get the two in a position where the suits are nullified. It also doesn't help that the fight on the way down is tensionless and uninspired. Conflict comes in two prongs, the external and the internal. Black Panther has pretty strong conflicts for both, with the external being stopping Killmonger from attacking the world and reclaiming the throne, and an internal conflict of living up to expectations and overcoming cultural traditions for the betterment of everyone. At the centre of both of these are the people of Wakanda, who represent the varying viewpoints of these conflicts. Do they uphold traditions? Do they go out and help those in need? Do they take revenge on those who oppress others? T'Challa constantly juggles these questions, however it is his people he should be answering to, not just Eric. Removing both of them from the battle means removing elements of the core conflicts of the film. YouTuber Nando v Movies has some great suggestions for changes to this final battle. In particular is the section here that I'll isolate.
T'Challa should be fighting Killmonger in full view of the rest of Wakanda, because the external conflict that T'Challa faces in the film is Killmonger coming for his throne, but the far more important internal conflict is T'Challa not knowing what to do with the throne when he has it. We need this fight to be the moment that T'Challa decides what kind of ruler he's going to be. For this whole movie, people have been presenting T'Challa with a choice: be a warrior or be a king. The council wants him to be a king, his friends want him to be a warrior, but it's a false choice. T'Challa is a warrior king, and the one thing that all of the great warrior kings of film are known for are their speeches. Your William Wallaces, your Aragorns, your Henry V. Hell, even President Whitmore from Independence Day is a fighter pilot, and he gives a very powerful speech. With T'Challa and Killmonger on the same field as the rest of the Wakandans, their fight will be witnessed by the entire nation. T'Challa gets to publicly make his case and tell everyone about his vision for Wakanda.
I could never quite put my finger on what I really didn't like about the final fight other than how it looked until Nando pointed this out. And then Aquaman essentially goes on to do just what he suggests for Black Panther. Once Aquaman and Ocean Master go toe to toe, the rest of the fight stops. Because it's pointless. Until the duel between the two could-be kings is over, there's no reason for anyone else to be doing anything. Aquaman utilises the everyone watching the duel in silence trope, which really brings in the audience as an actual spectator to the battle. The showdown reminded me of final duels like the one in Gladiator, where everything rests on the actions and decisions of the hero and the villain. We don't need to be told anything. If you've been paying attention, then everything you need to feel is already there. It's now on them to make their final moves. As well as being one of the most visually stunning duels I've ever seen CGI-wise, it really narrows down the focus to the main conflict. While this fight doesn't necessarily have the same weight to it that Black Panther's conflict does, Aquaman does a far better job at presenting its final conflict. Now let me break down how an equivalent for Black Panther would go. The fight starts more or less the same. T'Challa returns to continue the challenge issued by Killmonger, and the Dora Milaje and the Border Tribe begin fighting one another. T'Challa is shown to be actually having a difficult time with the Border Tribe until M'Baku and his men show up. Now everything goes full-blown battle sequence. However, throughout the entire fight, T'Challa and Eric are slowly fighting their way towards one another. There is an inevitable end we can see building here. Finally, the two reach each other. Everyone else stops. This is the fight that matters. I can see this battle starting one of two ways.
Begin.
Either T'Challa convinces Eric for them both to remove their suits and resume the challenge properly, or T'Challa finds some way to neuter both their suits and the rest of the Wakandan technology. While a lot of the technology is cool, I think it really takes away from this final fight. As the fight rages on, they both make their claims about the future of Wakanda. But the difference here now is that T'Challa is a lot more composed, and he acknowledges that he was wrong, which really takes Eric off guard. This is the moment we see why Eric is the villain of the story, and why T'Challa is not only best suited to be king, but also Black Panther. Eric can't come to terms with what T'Challa has said, and he's gone too far, so in his rage, T'Challa gains the upper hand and ends the fight. T'Challa stands. The Wakandans bow. This is their king, not only out of tradition, but they all understand his plans and accept his way as the way forward. We can finally end with the amazing death scene. We don't need to be in some kind of cave entrance. Eric can die in the glow of the sunset, surrounded by his people, in acceptance, but unwillingness to change who he is. This version of the fight brings the conflict down to where the true conflict lies. The future of Wakanda, and whether it's worth giving up the isolationism to help other people, or protect themselves.
Maybe we can still heal you.
While the writing from Aquaman could sure have used a few rewrites, probably more than a few actually, it understood its central conflict enough in the final battle to show only what was necessary and provided the most tension. Black Panther, with everything it done right, could have definitely taken a page out of Aquaman's book and understood its own conflict. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. It's funny actually, the plan for my very first video was actually supposed to be an entire rewrite of Black Panther, but ultimately I couldn't find what I was looking for to complete it, so I'm happy I finally found a use for what I'd already done. In regards to Aquaman, or maybe Black Panther as well, I'm not actually done with it. I want to explore it a little more, namely the action sequences. So at some point I hope to have something on that. For now, be prepared for some Star Wars content in the coming month. Stay serious.